Jewish Channel's Week in Review. Palestinian statehood pushes forward, and the U.S. finds itself almost entirely alone. The legacy of Harry Houdini told by today's magicians, Ariel Sharon's legacy told by his son, and more of the Jewish news that's changing your world right now in this episode of the Week in Review. Hello, and welcome to the Jewish Channel's Week in Review. I'm Stephen I. Weiss. The push for a Palestinian state has received its first endorsement at the United Nations and further isolated the United States and Israel in the international community. UNESCO is the cultural agency of the United Nations and chose to recognize the state of Palestine this week by a vote of 107 to 14. While the UNESCO vote to recognize Palestine is largely symbolic, the overwhelming support does indicate the overall attitude of countries around the globe. Of the 107 countries voting for recognition of a Palestinian state, some are members of the Security Council who'd been publicly fence-sitting on the question of whether they'd vote for a Palestinian state in the Security Council. Here at TJC, we assembled the voting tally for all nations who are members of the Security Council, and if they vote the same way in the Security Council, the resolution for Palestinian statehood will have a majority vote in that body. That means the United States would have to veto the measure to keep it from passing. That's something the administration of President Barack Obama has repeatedly promised to do, but a veto by the U.S. would have disastrous consequences for Americans in global affairs. Most prominently, a leading Saudi official said in an op-ed in the New York Times that a U.S. veto would mean that the Saudis would oppose the U.S. in Iraq, Afghanistan, and Yemen. There are further potential pitfalls for the United States if a Palestinian state continues to receive approval. A law passed in the 1990s automatically withholds U.S. funding for United Nations organizations that recognize a Palestinian state. UNESCO has now done just that, and so the Obama administration has put an immediate stop on a $60 million payment to that organization that was to be made next month. The U.S. has in the past provided 22% of the organization's funding. That will have a negative effect on the perception of the U.S. around the globe. But while UNESCO is simply a cultural organization, some other UN agencies are the core of international trade and security agreements that have long been considered vital to U.S. interests. One of those is the World Intellectual Property Organization, which helps members protect their assets around the globe. If it recognizes a Palestinian state, the U.S. under current law would withdraw funding. But without paying dues, the U.S. would lose its voting rights in that organization that's vital to U.S. business interests. Similarly, the U.S. could lose whatever influence it has had on the International Atomic Energy Agency, the body that is responsible for monitoring Iran's nuclear program to determine whether Iran is pursuing nuclear reactors for civil or military purposes. And then there are organizations with which the U.S. tries to keep its citizens safe from non-military threats, such as the World Health Organization and the International Civil Aviation Organization. Moving back to the concerns for Israel and the United States within the Security Council, this week's UNESCO vote was probably most surprising because of the choices made by France and the United Kingdom. They are part of the 5 permanent members of the Security Council. France voted for UNESCO recognition of a Palestinian state, and the UK joined 51 other nations in abstaining. That makes the U.S. the only one of the 5 permanent Security Council members willing to vote against the Palestinian state. And of the 10 temporary members of the Security Council, only one other country joined the United States in voting against UNESCO recognition. That would be Germany. Outside of the United Nations, a clear marker of leadership for a country is membership in the European Union. Out of 27 member countries in the EU, only 4 voted against recognition of a Palestinian state, while 11 voted for it and 11 abstained. This means that the United States is nearly alone not only among nations overall, but among leading nations as well in its willingness to stand with Israel at this time. While it's entirely possible that some countries would vote differently when the stakes are higher at the General Assembly and the Security Council, it certainly seems more likely after this UNESCO vote that they will also vote for a Palestinian state in those bodies as well. Now, usually it doesn't make sense to share an entire vote tally in a news segment, but with the vote so overwhelmingly lopsided in this case, listing the 14 nations that voted against recognition of a Palestinian state at UNESCO will take but a moment. Those 14 nations are Australia, Canada, the Czech Republic, Germany, Israel, Lithuania, the Netherlands, Palau, Panama, Samoa, Solomon Islands, Sweden, United States of America, and Vanuatu. Of course, Israel's isolation in the international community isn't a very new phenomenon, and few have known that better than former Israeli Prime Minister Ariel Sharon. Sharon has been in a persistent vegetative state since 2006, and his son has written a book celebrating the former prime minister's legacy. Christian Neiman reports on an event in which the author faced some tough questions.
The legacy of former Israeli Prime Minister Ariel Sharon was in New York last week as his son Gilad Sharon promoted a new biography about his father, Sharon, Life of a Leader, at 92nd Street Y. The younger Sharon fielded tough questions from veteran New York Times reporter Ethan Bronner about his father's time in government, including the decision to unilaterally withdraw all Jewish settlers from the Gaza Strip, a move Bronner said is viewed as a failure by both sides of Israel's political spectrum.
The right complaint is that we shouldn't have withdrawn our people from Gaza, that it was a trauma, an inappropriate one, and we will not repeat it. The left argument is, if you'd cut a deal with the Palestinians in a way that actually handed over the keys to the place instead of just walking out, then the Hamas wouldn't have taken over so well. So it's not actually seen as a success by anyone. Do you view it as a success?
I disagree with you because I checked polls from the time my father announced that on 2004. I checked that until 2008 when he was not in power for more than 2 years. Yeah. And a big majority of Israelis supported the plan, and
that's true.
In the Knesset as well.
Of course.
And in the elections that my father did not even participate in. It was shown that the people, and you know what, during the operation in December 2008, I heard no one suggesting to stay there when we were in Gaza. So it took a great leadership to take the decision and execute it. Everybody was happy that there was someone strong enough to do it.
To see more from this event, please tune into the full broadcast edition of the Week in Review.
Thank you, Christian. While Sharon's most famous legacy is his unilateral evacuation of Gaza, another Jew is known for a different kind of disappearing act, famous magician Harry Houdini. He died 85 years ago, and Meredith Gansman reports on his Jewish and magical impact.
Halloween is a night of magic, mischief, and scary fun. It's also the anniversary of a Jewish magician whose memory and influence is just inescapable. Oh, Mr. Houdini, would you care to join us? Harry Houdini, known as the King of Handcuffs, was the most famous American magician and escape artist of the late 19th and early 20th century. Kevin Connolly is an expert on Houdini and has been collecting his memorabilia for over 30 years. For Connolly, Houdini was more than just a magician.
He was like the personification of the American dream. He started from nothing, or below nothing. He made himself what we think of him today. He was, I think, of America's first superstar.
And that superstar was Jewish. Born Eric Weiss in Budapest, Hungary, as an infant, Houdini and his family emigrated to the United States, and his father became the first rabbi of Appleton, Wisconsin. At 17, Eric Weiss transformed himself into Harry Houdini, after the French magician Jean-Eugène Robert Houdin.
He was something to look up to, and it was acceptable to be a Jew. That's my feeling is, and he was proud. He said his father was a rabbi. He was proud of all of his heritage. And when he stepped out, of course, it was a racist time back then, and he broke through that, and he wasn't afraid to say it.
Just like Houdini, any magic enthusiast can learn how to perform escape illusions. At Phantasma Magic Shop, a street magician named Magic showed me some of Houdini's famous tricks.
As tight as you can?
The work of a magician's assistant.
It's never done. All right. Right there. You guys can see that at home. You can actually see the lock going into the chain. It's real. Locked.
All right, so
very good.
Houdini's magic
right here live.
Today.
All right, now the keys are there on the table. Here I am. My hands could not reach the locks on either side, and what Houdini would do is he would either turn around, go into a mailbag, and he would literally escape. Let me show you how fast this thing takes to escape. This is really cool. On the count of 3. 1, 2, and 3. Look at that. A full, real escape. Real chains on there. You can totally check those out. Those are not trick chains.
85 years after Houdini's untimely death, his influence can still be seen today in Jewish magicians like Steve Cohen, the self-dubbed millionaire's magician who performs regularly at New York's Waldorf Astoria.
Having studied Houdini and been inspired by him, is his showmanship, because Houdini was an extraordinary showman and was able to capture the imagination of thousands of people in a street where he was hanging upside down in a straitjacket, or on stage in front of thousands of people making an elephant disappear.
For more on Harry Houdini's influence on today's magicians, watch the full broadcast version of the Week in Review.
Thank you, Meredith. Another anniversary for an American icon is the 125th anniversary of the Statue of Liberty. At Lady Liberty's feet are famous words from a famous Jewish poet, as Rebecca Honig-Friedman reports.
It's a symbol of freedom, welcoming, and hope for so many. And on the 125th anniversary of the Statue of Liberty, a new museum exhibition is honoring the legacy of the woman who gave it that meaning. Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free. Those famous lines inscribed on the base of the Statue of Liberty are from the poem The New Colossus, written by Jewish-American poet Emma Lazarus, whose life and work are the subject of a new exhibit at the Museum of Jewish Heritage in Lower Manhattan.
With her poem, The New Colossus, she really imbued the statue with an American voice. Prior to that time, the statue, which was a gift from the people of France to the people of America, was really this classical figure. It's Greco-Roman. She has classical drapery and shackles on her feet. And Americans didn't know how to make sense of the statue. And so Emma Lazarus, through her poem, recast the voice of the statue, and she renamed her Mother of Exiles. And that really made her a symbol to all immigrants that they were welcome in America.
But while today Lazarus is well known for the New Colossus and her activism for Jewish immigrants, visitors to Emma Lazarus, Poet of Exiles, may be surprised by what they learn about her background.
She was actually a fourth-generation Sephardic Jewish American. Her family had long been integrated into American life back to the colonies and the Revolutionary War, and they helped set in motion the dialogue of freedom that really helped America think through the issues of religious liberties and ethnic minorities in the country.
For more on Emma Lazarus, Poet of Exiles, please tune in to the full broadcast version of the Week in Review.
Thank you, Rebecca. That's all for this week from all of us here at the Jewish Channel. Be well. The Jewish Channel is available on cable. Time Warner Cable Channel 528, IO Optimum Channel 291, RCN Channel 268, Bright House Channel 330, Verizon Fios Channel 900, Cox Channel 1, Frontier Communications, and now on Comcast Cable in the on-demand menu under Premium Channels. For more information, visit tjctv.com.